Brett Favre is known as one of the best quarterbacks to play in the NFL.
He was only a Viking for a short time, but he made a big impact on fans here. These days, some of his biggest impacts are being felt in his home state of Mississippi. Right now, Favre is caught in the middle of Mississippi's largest ever public corruption case. He has not been charged with a crime, but he is named in a civil lawsuit surrounding misspent welfare money. Favre denies any wrongdoing. While he can't talk about that lawsuit, he is talking to our Mike Max about life after football and how he continues to deal with adversity. It's a story you'll only see on WCCO.
I had never spent any time with Brett Favre when he was with the Vikings for simple reasons. He was greeted in Minnesota with a helicopter following his ride. He was so big by the time he got here, local reporters could not get close to him. So I always wanted to find out what made him tick.
Captain for tonight's game, for Hancock Central, number 10, Brett Favre.
That's where it gets interesting. He grew up playing for his late father, Irv, who would not let him throw the football in high school. He overheard his dad one day praising Brett to the assistant coaches. Praise he heard seldomly from his father in direct conversations.
I knew that he loved me. I think that he felt as though, had he given me praise, it would have gone to my head.
Woo! I'm on. You lucky I ain't light like I used to be.
I did not know how much it hurt him to leave the Packers, not on his own terms, even to this day.
The management wanted to go in a different direction. I was okay with that, but I just felt like all I had done, this is what I got for it.
What surprised me more was that after a year with the Jets, when Minnesota reached out, the MVP and Super Bowl champion was filled with insecurity.
It was at a time in my career which is kind of odd, that you feel like you need to be wanted and accepted.
Really? Even Brett Favre needs to be wanted by someone?
Even Brett Favre. I mean, I still felt like I could play.
Brett Favre in purple, a Minnesota Viking.
I mean, to run out of that tunnel and a cheer was it's hard.
Nobody could have ever envisioned that.
He played the position of quarterback as well as anyone has played it here ever in that first season with the Vikings.
He cuts it back the other way and into the end zone. Touchdown, Percy Harvin.
And everything with a flair that you could not take your eyes off of him.
All you guys work together.
On this night at a charity event in Winona, the heart of both Vikings and Packer country, I observe a group filled with adoration. One fan came with a book with 500 football cards just of Brett Favre. All that with a cloud of uncertainty of his legal issues in Mississippi, which makes me wonder.
Everything that's going on, and I know you can't talk about a lot of stuff, et cetera, but do you have to get to a point where you don't worry about what somebody else thinks of you? How does Brett Favre handle that?
I care about my legacy. My perception and maybe everyone else's perception may not, be on the same.
But dealing with adversity, I mean, if all that you've been through in your life, do you get to be good at it?
Yeah, you have to kind of weather the storm. There's obviously not a textbook on when that is.
We spend an hour on stage. He recalls that beating the Packers twice in his first season in Minnesota ranks up there, maybe as his career highlight. He is greeted by and leaves to a thunderous standing ovation, and it dawns on me. People see in his football career a personality they want to be like, the gunslinger who knew no fear. And that's what he wants his football legacy to feel like.
If every one of those guys in there had a chance to play, I would want them to say, I'd like to play just like Brett. Passionate, loves the game, loves his teammates, spontaneous, wasn't perfect, but we'll take the good and the bad. That's it.
That's it. The event was a fundraiser in Winona for the Miller Foundation to raise money for local sports. Favre is the first of several high-profile Vikings alumni we will feature this fall. We went to Las Vegas and caught up with Reverend Randall Cunningham, spent quality time with Chris Carter and former Viking turned actor Ed Marinero, all on the list. Interesting sidebar, the Packers just lost to the Las Vegas Raiders 17-13. So the Vikings at least stay in the hunt with the Packers, right?
Sounds like a lot of that Favre stuff surprised you.
Yeah.
A lot of it. His insecurity about himself,
You wouldn't think that.
No, his relationship with his father was he went to college as a defensive back because his dad wouldn't let him throw the ball. Nobody thought he could play quarterback.
Crazy.
So there's just all kinds of things like that, and he was so transparent. It was a fascinating night because he was so transparent about everything on and off the record. So.
Yeah, yeah.